Welcome to Swiftly Spoken, a fan-made Taylor Swift podcast in which we break down her lyrics, deep dive into full album retrospectives, and theorise about what may be coming next. As always, we are your hosts, Lisa and Cameron, and finally, this week we are going to be discussing and decoding all things the Tortured Poets department. So finally, the day has come. We've listened to the album, we've digested it, and we're going to be giving our reactions and breaking down every single track one by one. We're going to split up this video, obviously. In this one, we're going to be talking about the standard album, and then there'll be another video in which we talk about the other 15 tracks that compile the anthology that is the Tortured Poets department. Before we start track by track, general thoughts. How are you feeling, Cameron? We haven't spoken, so this is all very raw and very real for us.
We've been pretty good, to be fair. Literally, we haven't said anything at all.
I don't know
we haven't mentioned anything.
What you think of this album. Honestly, you could be like, I hate this.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, for all I know, you could turn around and be like, that's the worst album I've ever heard in my life and hate every second of it. I have no idea, which I think is actually quite fun.
It is.
Because normally I feel like we've kind of potentially know little tidbits of what each other think, but we are totally going in blind, which is really exciting. So yeah, my initial reaction was, because as ever I got up at 5 when it came out, so obviously was processing it. Was probably on my second listen, maybe by 7 o'clock, probably second, maybe 2.5, I don't know. And then obviously Taylor announced the other half, which was when you messaged me, because I was just in my own little head. And then you were like, oh my God, Cameron. And I was like, yeah, it's amazing. You know what I mean? Didn't really realise what you were saying. And
I was like, yes, but the other 15.
Yeah, and I was like, what? And then, it took me basically all day to fully process all of them and properly listen to them all. I think initially it was very overwhelming. I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of a double album drop, I'm not going to lie.
Oh, it's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot to process.
Overall reaction was overwhelming, but I think also because the songs are long, they're very wordy, they're very lyrical.
Oh, definitely.
That it was like, okay, not only are they the original 15 or so a lot to process, it's like the others are so much, but initial listen, I generally thoroughly enjoyed it, really, really loved it. Still really, really love it. And thankfully I've been quite lucky. The week that it's obviously been off, I've been on holiday, so I've basically had a week of solid kind of time to really digest it. So I feel quite, I've properly kind of processed it.
That's good.
But no, I love it. What about you? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so like you said, it was a lot to digest. Honestly, this album is very, very heavy. Yeah. It has a lot going on. There's a lot to process. There's a lot of feelings in it. It is very deep. Obviously, we knew it was going to be a deep album in the sense that we guessed what it might be about, but it was a bit of a bait and switch there because there's a lot more going on than just that. So it is a lot to take on board. However, as always, Taylor does not disappoint. One good thing, as you said, you had quite a lot of time to kind of process the album. I think I'm getting there now at this point. I still have to process the other 15 tracks a little bit more, although I'm loving them more and more each day. I'm loving the whole album more and more each day. Honestly, she did such a good job. It is what it describes. Now when you look back at what we spoke about, it's like, no, of course it wasn't that. Of course it was going to be this. But it's hard to describe, but once you understand the album, you're like, yeah, it couldn't have been anything other than this. It makes the most sense for that period in time and for this type of music. Very poetic, as you said, very lyrically heavy and a lot to get into. But yeah, I'm glad that we have given ourselves some time to kind of sit with the album, get into it a bit more, let the shock of what it all is wash over us and then properly process it, because as many people have been coming out in the last few days, and especially some of the critics that had given their initial opinions to the album, are now kind of retracing their steps and going, actually, this is an album that you really need to sit with for a minute. It's much more than what you initially might think. And it looks like it's one of those albums that, you need to give it a minute. In fact, it reminds me a bit in that kind of sense of Reputation, of Red. Albums that you had, they were more appreciated the longer the time went on and you look back at them and you see them for what they actually are. I think people have realized this much quicker, but in this case I do think this is an album that you need to sit with for a minute and you need to actually understand and not just judge it straight away.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's definitely the case for this album, and it was it's not something that you can just form an instant snappy opinion to. to truly understand it, you have to truly listen. And these songs are naturally quite long. Like often the average song is about 4 minutes, which therefore is longer, and there's therefore more content to digest and kind of sit with. So no, I'm really glad we kind of gave ourselves some time, because now I feel like I've got a fully formed opinion on every song and the album as a whole, rather than, I think if we'd done it in that initial week, I'd be like, oh God, what is that song even about? It was just too much. And yeah, only now do I feel like I've started to pick my favourites, know what's what, and distinguish, where lyrics sit and stuff like that. And yeah, no, loving it though, absolutely loving it. Like Taylor really knocked it out of the park. Every time she does an album, it's like, how are you going to top this? Like, how are you going to knock this out of the park? Even just with like sales and marketing and the vinyl. Every time it just she knocks the last one out of the park.
She's just got her finger on the pulse. She's ahead of the curve constantly. She makes trends. She doesn't follow them, and I think that's why we enjoy her so much. And I think that's why also this album is a bit hard to get your head around at first, because it is so different from everything. And honestly, in hindsight, it makes Midnight's look so extremely like polished and like clean and I don't know, kind of like 1989. It makes me feel like Midnight's is 1989 when Midnight's is it displays a lot of things as well in that in the lyrical content and in production, but this one seems so like chaotic and vulnerable and weird, but in a good way, and just heart-wrenching in so many different ways that you look back at Midnight's and it makes it seem kind of like clean and sparkly in comparison.
This kind of slightly commercial, not in a bad way.
I completely agree with that. Like
this kind of commercial,
which is crazy to say about Midnight's. If we had said this about Midnight's like a month ago, I'd be like, well, not really, because Midnight's is a bit it's soul bearing in itself as well. For her to lean into how she was feeling and lean into these very scary at times feelings and display that for us and put it all on show is a very brave thing to do for a songwriter and for someone like Taylor, who she knows everything's going to be picked apart. She comments on it. So I guess we start at the beginning with Fortnight, which is serving basically as the lead single to the album, as we do have a music video as well. Fortnight, of course, features Post Malone. He's in the video as well, which I guess we can touch upon. But honestly, love this song. The more I listen to it, the more I'm like, yes, it displays it sets the scene perfectly for the album, honestly. Sonically, visually, with the MV, and just the story that is going to be told and what is about to unfold before your eyes, or your ears in the case. It really is. Taylor herself said it was like very fatalistic and dramatic and hyperbolic, and that is what the album is as a whole. So yeah, I completely agree with her when she says like it does set the scene and it is like the thematic overarching song.
I am going to weirdly play a little bit of Devil's Advocate.
Okay.
I feel like I love Fortnite, like I really love it, and like you said, first listen I was like, cool, this song's cool, and now as I kind of go on, I've really kind of fallen in love with the song and her pronunciation of like, I want to kill her and stuff like that. I love so the kind of the drama of it all. But I do feel like potentially Fortnight has fallen into the kind of, as basically its place on the album is very similar to why Willow is at the start of Evermore, and I'm not sure if potentially I feel like it's the best opener. Like I feel like thematically and lyrically, but I don't know if like Midnight's, it was like Me at Midnight, and then Lavender Haze felt like an album opener.
Right. Okay. So you're feeling like it's a good lead single, but not a good opener. Is that
opener? Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like I love it as a song.
But what would you use like Willow, to open this?
That's what I was thinking.
All of this. I
was thinking exactly the same. Like, because then I was like, okay, then if I didn't pick that, what would I have picked? And to be quite honest with you, probably the only other potential option would be like the Tortured Poets Department, but I feel like that's also not punchy enough as an opener either.
Right.
But
okay, so
I do
let
feel
me
like
convince you, because I love to convince you.
Yes.
I think this is a good opener, solely because if we think about it, Midnight's, before we got You Losing Me, which we're not going to count in this case, it ends in with Hits Different, right? Which we have is one of the endings anyway.
Take Me Away.
Exactly. And this opens up with I was supposed to be sent away, but they forgot to come and get me. So it opens up kind of like in that moment that we put Midnight's down and you're like, actually, listen, I was never taken away. They never came for me. And this is the terrible aftermath
situation that's
of
unfolded,
everything
yes.
that I'm about to tell you about. Like,
that's the thing. It's like, lyrically and stuff, I do think, yeah, it makes sense. I don't know, for me, I feel like, okay, was this for streams or was this a genuine
I mean, obviously,
opener?
it kind of is both, right? Like, obviously, I get what you mean. It's a bit of a Willow moment where Willow also feels a bit strange to me as an opener, but at the same time, I get it. So I see what you mean. But I do
feel
think
like you jump
sorry.
into it, but I guess like you said, there's no other real way to open it, really. I feel like you just have to just open the floodgates and just get on and be like, okay, this is how it is.
Yeah, this is like tame in comparison to some of the things that are coming up.
Oh my gosh.
So to be honest, yeah, but no, I think this song is doing really, really good. I love Post Malone in this song. I think
me too.
He adds enough, like not too much, but enough. Love that bridge moment. Love it, absolutely love it.
Yes. And the music video is really, really cool. I love the music video. The aesthetic of it is really interesting, very intense. Like, I think, this, to be fair, makes sense as the kind of serving as the lead single. Obviously, as a little merch collector, the fact we've got a CD single is very, very exciting.
For the first time
I cannot wait for
mine
to arrive. Yeah, first time since Cardigan. So that's quite exciting. It feels like it's being given a bit more of like a single treatment, which is fun. But yeah, I love it. I really, really love the song. I think, Post Malone does a really good job. I like his feature. I don't feel like he takes over from Taylor or don't feel like it's clashing.
In fact, I like really the introduction of as him as like a character in the MV and or various characters really in the MV without tattoos, all of this, and in the song as well. It adds a good like little. He's complicit in the running away with things, in the pulling her towards this idea of something more, which eventually will break down as we go through the album. But again, the music video, amazing. Like you said, I really liked it. I loved the Dead Poets Society, Ethan Hawke and Josh Charles standing up there. That was so good. She knew we were all going to meme and talk about dead poets, talk to poets.
Also, Taylor is really good with like pulling in those kind of
nods,
like references.
It is
like
good.
even with like Bejeweled and like the stepsisters, the fact she brought Haim and stuff, like that's just so clever. So she's always really good with that.
Yeah, she cast quite when she does direct her videos, she does tend to cast good casts, basically. People, actors and actresses, and just people from, real life that make cameos and appearances that do make a lot of sense. So yeah, that's fun actually, yeah. So that leads us to the title track of the album, which is track 2, The Tortured Poets Department. I didn't know what I was expecting for this, but it wasn't what I got. I can tell you that.
No, this one was like, I was like, oh, okay. This one took you on a bit of a wild ride.
Definitely.
I love it though. Like,
so do I.
The first listen,
I was
kind of like,
what's it?
What on earth is going on? And like, the lyric of like, you told Lucy you'd kill yourself if I ever believed. I was like, oh my God, like what? You
felt like you said the same to Jack, gossip. So I felt seen. Yeah. I'm like, why are we talking about these people?
I was just like,
that's what I mean. She bears her soul. Like, who writes this as a song? But then everyone's going to be singing it. This is one of the songs that honestly feel the most like poetry to me. There's a lot, to be honest with you.
Yes.
But this is one of the ones that you feel like, this is tortured poetry. She's just setting it to a beat, and there you go.
Yeah.
It really does make sense.
Just, Oh, 100%. And like, even just things where she's like, you left your typewriter at my apartment, and then she's like, I think some things I never say, like who uses typewriters anyway, because I was thinking what, and it's almost like it is like reading something, isn't it? Because like as like the listener, you're almost like, really? And then she almost basically says what you kind of think, which obviously we'll reference later down on another certain song where she like breaks the fourth wall. But yeah, no, I really, really love the song. And I think over time, this is one of the songs that I'm really going back to a lot, because I think, because it is such a little story, you kind of get wrapped up in this little story for like 4 minutes that it's just, it feels like gossip. You're like, oh my God, like, did he say that? Like, what? I love this song. I really, really love it.
I do as well.
I think it's such a cool song.
And it introduces another key theme in the album, which is Taylor, the singer, the author, as an unreliable narrator. Like, how are you going to say who's going to hold you and who's going to know you? Who's going to decode you like me? Nobody. But then the first thing she said is, I don't know, who uses typewriters anyway? So do you really understand this person or do you not? Because, you're you're saying a few different, contradictory things here. So I love that. It introduces, the poet as an unreliable narrator. Aren't we all really? A little bit. We think we know it all and then we don't, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, very diaristic, but also still kind of vague, which is another thing in this album. She's blurred the lines just enough on purpose, obviously, but it makes for a really quirky song that just works. It just works. It is the thesis song, perhaps, because of the torture poetry. This is where it comes from, that bloody typewriter that was left at the apartment, which, you can kind of put two and two together and be like, this is like a certain scarf that was once left a long time ago. It becomes metaphorical in many ways, and this is the product of that, basically.
Yes, interesting. Yes, that is very interesting. Gosh, yeah, these songs, like, well, even when you come off like the back of Fortnight, where it's like, basically it's just like, and for a fortnight there we were, I love you, it's ruining my life. It's like, how can you say that you love someone that you've been hanging out with 2 weeks and it's ruining your life? And then you go into the torture poets, like you said, where it's like, how can you say that and then say that at the same time? It is just
this
like,
is it. Yeah. It's
tortured.
Exactly, it is, and it is playing with that idea very much on purpose. She's toying with you. We're in her hands. She's a cat and we're the mouse being pushed around and played with, basically, which is fun. It's fun from a listener's perspective, although it can be challenging as well.
And also, this kind of threw me like for six. The Charlie Puth.
Oh gosh.
Rogue.
So, it was funny.
Huh?
No, I hate it though. Not Charlie Puth.
Yeah, I was like, what? I was like, and has Charlie Puth reacted? Because I don't think I've seen anything yet.
I don't know. I guess so.
Quiet. Like,
I don't.
How is he feeling?
Follow him much, but it's funny because
no, neither do I.
This reminds me a little bit of the Drake shout out in Lover. It's just catches you a bit off guard. It's like,
but even the Drake one kind of makes sense. Like, at least
there's a play with words.
Out with him for a bit.
Yeah,
they've kind of like, like interacted. Like,
Charlie Puth is just here
privately.
He should be a bigger artist. Honestly, I do kind of agree in the sense that he has a lot of talent, especially for producing and making music. His musicality is incredible. However, his music is just not my. It's not.
Quite generic.
Yeah,
and that necessarily isn't bad.
No, it's not a bad thing. But it's like, yeah, he should be a bigger artist, but perhaps not in that way. I don't know. But it's also an interesting thing that she sets with this song again, where we do get some mentions to like people, like interesting people that come into the story. Charlie Puth is there. Dylan Thomas is there. Yeah. Patti Smith is there. As we go on, we're going to talk about
Jack and Lucy
are there. Yeah, and as we're going to go on, we're going to see other people make appearances on this album, which is so interesting as well. How she's calling out specific people. I love that.
Yeah, the amount of name dropping on this album is on like another level. It's like every other song has got like 5 different people's names in.
Honestly, I think this album is an album that we could analyze in so much depth. Like, I feel like we're going to go to the next song now, and I still feel like, there's so much more to say, but we can't be here for like 10 hours, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and I think like I briefly said to you, like, this album is just one that you just constantly want to go back to when you're not listening to it. I just want to listen to Torture Poets. I just want to listen to Torture, and that just shows how good it is and how much there is to unpack. That there's so much more constantly to listen to find out. It's so good.
There's a lot of content, and it speaks for itself. She doesn't need to address anything. She doesn't need to put out anything extra. The music is there. It speaks for itself, and that is a hard thing to do in and of itself. And then for it to be so layered and have so much nuance in it and still be able to connect with the public widely with these weird lyrics in a way is such a feat. Honestly, no one does it like Taylor. That's why we're here. This album proves it. I do think so. Anyway, moving on to track 3, My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. And here we have, again, something that she does a few times in the album, an extended metaphor, basically. Taylor is the toy, and her boy has broken her, and she's reflecting on. But still, you should have seen him when he first got me, though. He was so proud of me and trying to hold on to that moment when it's going to end in tragedy, basically. So how did you feel about this one?
So this song, first listen, favourite.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it's still probably up there with like potentially top 5, maybe top 3.
It's funny. I
might need to reassess.
I feel like this one reminds me of lyricism in 1989. like that kind of metaphor, like it's the blank space of it all, playing a bit of a character but not really. But especially that I'm queen of sandcastles, he destroys. What a lyric.
He destroys.
Such a good lyric.
Oh, it's so good. And do you know why? When I was like, I love this song, it's one of my favourites. When I found out solo right. Every time.
Oh, yeah, it is.
So there's something about a solo right.
She's so good.
It's like, yes, that's why. So no, I love the chorus where it's like, oh, it's so cool. It's so clever. I love this song. Like that bridge. It's just it's like I love it. Like once I fix me, he's gonna miss me. It's just like it kind of has a slight like bejeweled, blank space feel to it. I love this song.
Love the use of an extended metaphor. I really do. And this one is so good. It's just, I don't know. She's just so intelligent in the way that she writes these things. But anyway, things that Taylor said about this song is that it's about being somebody's favourite toy until they break you and then they don't want to play with you anymore. Which is how a lot of us are in relationships, where we are so valued by a person in the beginning and then all of a sudden they break us or they devalue us in their mind. So it is, again, a very heavy topic that she has, in a way, in this song, sanitized a little bit. It's still heavy, but it's such a good metaphor as well. Like, obviously there are relationships, it doesn't have to be a partner, it could be someone familiar or a friend. Exactly. The overtime, sometimes people do take people for granted.
Kind of worn a bit thin.
Yeah. And then you do feel like, but wait, can I cling to those moments in which I was new and shiny? Oh my god, this reminds me of Lord. I'm a toy that people enjoy till the tricks don't work anymore and they get bored of me.
Yes. Yes, that's very true. I hadn't made that connection. Oh gosh, I'm going to think about that all evening. That's a very good connection.
We've got to get melodrama
that's
back
really
out.
Good. Yes, I'm going to be dusting that CD back out. Oh no, this song, I honestly love it. Like first listen, I was like, yes. I feel like on first listen, the first two, I was like, okay, I do like these, but it's very different.
They're harder to chew through. This one is a bit easier to get.
And then this one I was
like,
yes. I was like, this is fun. Like this is fun. This is pop. This is easy. This is consumable. And I love a sad song, I'm like, but every so often I like one that's just a bit fun. And I thought this was really good. I was like, this. And
then going from one of your favourites to one of my favourites, Down Bad.
Interesting. Really?
What a song. Loved it from the moment I heard it. I was like, yes.
Really?
Yes. I love I don't know why. It's just, I love it. Again, extended metaphor. This time we're basically been abducted by aliens, and she's comparing the alien abduction to this feeling of being sucked into this relationship, into this person's orbit, and then them just kind of like churning her back out and then leaving her back to where she started, and the after effects of that. Comparing that to an alien abduction, that's just like who does that? Who thinks of that? It's so good. It's so good. I love it. That's
so interesting, because you're going to hate what I'm going to say.
No. Why would you do this to me then?
This is probably one of my least favorites.
No!
It's probably one of my least favorites.
Oh my god. Really?
I don't know why. I think I love the verses, but I just feel like at the moment
you don't like the chorus very much.
Hitting with me yet.
Okay.
There's something about it, like, and I love the concept. Like I don't skip it. Because it's still really good, but I don't know. I think for me, the two that it's in between are like two of my favourites.
Right, so it's kind
I feel
of like
it's got tough competition.
Yeah. It's sandwiched between big boys, basically.
It's like if you like watch or read like the best book or film you've ever watched in your life, and then the one you watch after was good. It's kind of like, well, it's not as good. It's almost like you're comparing it to what came before.
I guess because I feel, I mean, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love My Boy Breaks His Favourite Choice and So Long London, but I don't know why. I think this one is so fun. Maybe it will change in time. I don't think it's my favourite from the album, but I think it's just fun. I loved the metaphor that she created. I love the way that she sings, For a Moment I Knew Cosmic Love, and For a Moment I Was Heaven Struck, where everything kind of just like stops and the world doesn't move, and then it goes back to, but now I'm down bad, crying at the gym, which is such a good line. Such a good line.
Yes, one of my favourite lyrics in this, and it has a slight last kiss moment, is when it's like, I loved your hostile takeovers, encounters closer and closer, all your indecent exposures, how dare you say that it's, and then you're like, over.
But
and you're like, she can't say it.
Yes, Taylor.
Yeah.
God,
yes.
maybe that's why.
That is really clever.
Maybe that's why.
That is really, really clever.
It's clever songwriting.
And that is such a last Cliss moment. Yeah.
Clever performance of the song. Definitely. Like her shaky breath,
that is
her little moment.
That's one thing with this album is the performance and the emotion. I think that's why it's so good, because not only are the lyrics so rich, but the way she's singing it is like, oh my, you can feel every single emotion, and like you know, even when she sings it slightly spitefully or really kind of sad or heartbreak, you can hear all those emotions. And that is one of my favorite things, is that every time she does it, I'm like, that's so clever. Because you say over, but you're like, oh, she never said it, because she can't. Like, how dare you say that it's...
But you can't say
like,
it.
oh, no.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, that is really solid, I can't lie.
It also introduces the feeling of this relationship that perhaps was the escape, was this crazy experience, but also if you're, you know, comparing it to some people like beaming you up, it's kind of clinical, kind of cold, kind of very external feeling, not a nice feeling in a way. It's like
slightly transactional.
Yeah, in a way, yeah. It's like, we wanted something from you, we got it from you, and then chucked you back home, and that's that.
Goodbye.
And that's changed you forever, and it's left the other person perhaps just like, life goes on. That's crazy. That's such a sad feeling. And again, the end result is so vulnerable, and it is very hard to process. Both, it's because it's very real as well. Both for her to be able to produce this and sing this and give it out to the world, I'd be too scared, honestly. I'd never be able to do it.
Me too. I'd be terrified.
Yep. But yeah, it reflects on a time of chaos, confusion, and Taylor describes it again as, the metaphor in Down Bad is that I was comparing the idea of being love-bombed, where someone rocks your world and dazzles you and then just kind of abandons you, as an alien abduction, where you were abducted by aliens, like this girl was abducted by aliens, but she wanted to stay with them, and when they drop her off back in her hometown, she's like, wait, no, where you're going, I liked it there. Very intense.
Yes, out of the oven into the microwave.
Oh my gosh, yes. And then we reach the promised land. Track 5.
Yes, track 5, which I think before we get into this, I'm going to kind of like preference this, because I still feel so bad over my reaction towards You're on Your Own, Kid, and how I said that it was like the worst track 5 that she's ever released or something.
2 years later, here we are.
I don't know what, so I just want to like apologise again for that.
But that's fine. That's fine, because that is just your genuine reaction at that point in time, and maybe our reactions now could change. That's fine. It's just
so yeah, and I think the problem with this position on the album is that it's got to earn its spot.
Yeah.
You're like, you've got to be the most vulnerable. You've got to be the most vulnerable, emotional, personal, heartbreaking song on this album. And when you're up against, you know, a lot of songs that are very similar, it's like, okay, this is tough competition. But I think So Long London deserves that spot.
Oh, yes. I completely agree with you. Yeah. No, this is... And it's crazy to say, because this album is so full of so many feelings and so much, you know, exploring and delving into very, very delicate topics and vulnerable moments. But this one is definitely the crowning piece, in the sense that of the, you know, what it's talking about, the breakdown of, you know, trying to fight for something until the very end, and then realizing and being annoyed, as Taylor said, you know, I'm annoyed because I've given you all of this and now I'm going to have to abandon it anyway. And I loved this place.
Yes. Oh, it is so painful. And again, Aaron, the fact that Aaron like co-wrote, and obviously produced,
my beloved,
says so much, because he always gets such an emotional performance out of Taylor. Like, he really kind of, I don't know, when they work together, like the emotion that she pours out, it's just like, wow. You're like, oh my God. And like, I think also the clever lyricism of like So Long London, like Goodbye London, and also
For So
Long. Oh, I was like, oh my God, you're a genius. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that was really clever. And one of my favourite other lyrics is, you swore that you loved me, but where were the clues? I died on the altar waiting for the proof. Basically, a ring. Where was the ring?
Oh my God.
That's basically what she's saying.
Yeah.
Where was it? I have a whole song called Paper Rings.
Wow. Oh, it's just so excruciating. And it is that sentiment of feeling like, you know, do you, like someone said, and my friend said, is it right to be scared every day of a love affair? Like, how can you
Fair,
live like that? You can't. You have to let it go. But isn't it so difficult to do that? You have to be very, very brave, you know. And then, you know, what comes after that is absolutely, you sacrifice us to the gods of your bluest days. And then the production kicks back in and you get, I'm just getting colour back into my face. Yeah. And I'm just mad as hell because I loved this place. I cry every time I get to that part because it's so...
Oh, no, it's so
the production, emotional. So good.
And the reference to the colour blue. Obviously bluest, like sad, but there is also that kind of double reference with, you know, previous kind of mentions of blue. So no, I think this song is just so gorgeous, so heartbreaking, and you can hear the emotion. It was just everything I'd hoped for from this song, and I really, really love it.
And even so, despite all of the anger and the sadness and everything that is portrayed in this song, even so, you get the, you know, you'll find someone. I'll find someone. Yeah. We had a good run.
Exactly.
But so long.
Yeah, like, you know, exactly. Yeah, which I think is such a mature...
It is.
Like, such a mature perspective. No, I think this song is so... It does explore, to be fair, probably all of the stages of grief, really. The
Honestly,
anger,
I
denial,
think so. Bargaining, I think so. I
and
think
then
she goes through them all.
Bargaining, and then acceptance at the end when it's like, you'll find someone.
Yep.
Like, you know... Thanks for the kind of ride. It was good fun while it lasted, but
bit of a mess, but yeah.
Don't.
But no, it's such a good song. Yeah, it deserves its place as a track 5 for sure. And then we go on to "But Daddy, I Love Him."
Yes.
Then we get called out.
Your first
she
reaction?
said, "There's something for all of you here." You as well.
Yeah. What was your...
my face, I was just like, God, what is going on here? And then she comes up with the, I'm having his baby. And I'm like, what?
Baby?
And then she's like, no, I'm not. But you should see your face. I'm like, girl, what is this? Harry Styles? I can't be dealing with all of this all of this whiplash.
Exactly. Honestly, I was like, huh? Like, honestly, like, because it was like 5 a.m. I was like, did I hear that right? And then she obviously says, no, I'm not. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I did hear that right, though.
Oh, that was funny. That I can't like that. Nothing. I feel like that song is like so fun anyway, but I feel like it's one of those songs that is just so enjoyable on the first listen.
Oh yeah,
because obviously
you need to see your face. You wish in those cases you kind of do wish that you were kind of like recording yourself, which isn't something that we do, but it's just funny, isn't it? Because you're never going to have that moment again and go, what? It just pulls you up from it. Just pulls it from it. Like, did she actually just say that? It's funny because this album is so like dark and deep, but she's actually really funny. She has some funny lines
there's
in it.
So many. Yeah,
she's got
so
jokes.
many kind of like like funny kind of jokey lines. I really love this song. I think it's so fun, and it kind of kind of gives me like slightly fearless speak.
Yes, I've got written down here. I need to mention to Cameron
like
that
love
this
story.
is giving me fearless love story. Exactly, it is love story, but retold, but without Romeo and Juliet. Just like more like just a general more story. He was chaos, he was revelry, and my daddy didn't want me to. My daddy said stay away from Juliet. It's the same basically. We're retelling that story, changing the ending as she did with Romeo and Juliet for Love Story. It is very fearless. It is very debut, which is another interesting thing because I've seen a lot of people online talking about how they feel hints of debut and Reputation imbued into this album.
Yes. I love
that.
100%. I've definitely seen a lot of country kind of like Fearless Speak Now-y, but I guess potentially debut kind of runs throughout, and Reputation 100. Well, there's literally songs that retell and kind of reanalyze, you know, a lot of
that moment in life,
era, which a lot of it kind of sits in the anthology, but there's definitely still speckles of it kind of here. But no, definitely, and I think that is interesting because each time that Taylor has kind of like whenever she's kind of done an album around the time of a re-record, they've always kind of impacted each other. What with like potentially things like Evermore kind of
Fearless.
Impacting like the Fearless Vault a little bit, and potentially the Red Vault, and then like Red kind of slightly impacting like Midnights with like Maroon. So it's really interesting how they do. I feel like her previous work and current all kind of start to sync up when they're being recorded, and she's kind of reassessing them at the same time. And no, I definitely see that crossover 100%, and this is one of those songs.
Yeah, I do think the re-recordings have been a catalyst for many, many things in her life as an artist and in her personal life.
It's mad how...
It's crazy, how that's...
It's mad how in such a negative has turned into such a positive. Like, I couldn't imagine not having Taylor's versions and things like that. Whereas I remember at the time, like, just the feeling of, oh my God, what's going to happen? Like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to someone's career. Like, this is just atrocious. It's turned into literally the best thing and has just, so much fun. Yeah, no. This, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
But back to the song.
Yeah, it is a difficult thing to discuss, really, because obviously, yeah, it's turned into something so positive, but at the same time, as we always say, like, she didn't have to do all of this, and it is a pain in the ass, and she should be angry because of that as well. But yeah, no,
yes.
it definitely has been like a domino for many, many things. And in what direction her music has gone in what direction her life has gone in what direction her artistry has gone in, even the Eras tour. But like you said, going back to the song, and this is something that I think we'll kind of delve more into as we reach, which is a song way, way, way down the list. But how did it end? We'll get there. But I think there's a moment where I think the same thing is kind of being called out here, where it's like, we, in the end, are fans and spectators. And it is true that we have a lot to say, but we need to know our place as well. We do need boundaries. It is true. And I'm glad that she has called out the fandom at large, us, everyone, really, because it is true.
Don't want to hear any more of that bitching and moaning.
I agree. It's hard to, obviously she's going to feel encroached upon because she is a human, right? She's a human being. Yeah. She feels things the same as anyone else. And imagine your life and most difficult moments playing out in front of
microscope,
millions of people. And the people who say that they love you and they want the best for you, then analysing your every single move and judging you for it.
Telling what you can and can't do. Yeah.
It isn't fair, really, is it? It's not. Like, if she's going to...
It is awful being such a public figure.
Yeah. It reminds me of the day that she sang The Lucky One as a surprise song, and she said this is about how horrible being famous is. And that is another theme on the album. And I understand it. Obviously, we can all say, oh, boo-hoo, billionaires. But at the same time, come on. Am I really feeling sorry for them? Yeah, I am, because... It is. You're still a human being.
I couldn't do it.
You're still a human being. You know, you're still a person. I couldn't live under that pressure. I would have cracked by now.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But still, other than that, it is a very typically Swiftian song. It really is. It's like the twist at the end where even my daddy loves him instead of singing the But Daddy, I Love Him. It is very classic country, very classic twist. Next up, we have Fresh Out the Slammer, which is another interesting song. Again, very metaphorical. We have, obviously, the idea of being out of the slammer, prison, house arrest, whatever you want to call it, as she alludes to in her poem, and going back, running to someone's arms, something's arms, and comparing, you know, it's fine, I've done my time. It's laced with hope, to be honest, which is a funny placement in the album. We have two of songs back to back placed back to back with a lot of hope in them, a lot of, oh my God, this is going to be beautiful, everything's going to be amazing.
I think it's a fun song. I think it's interesting that, like, with Reputation stuff, there was a lot of imagery of kind of jailers and like
So a bit of a callback to that, really,
Yeah, so there's a kind of a bit of a callback to that. And then obviously her kind of talking about, you know, that time in her life, you know, at the time she wanted that, but maybe that wasn't really what she wanted. So I thought that was interesting. And I do really like the, like, Another Summer taking cover of Rolling Thunder. He Didn't Understand Me.
So good, yeah.
That, like the verses are really, pace. Like even the camera flashes,
Yeah, and it does, it really paints the picture vividly, which is something that Taylor's very good at with lyricism, painting a vivid picture in few words.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. And I think, but I don't know if the chorus slows it down a bit. But I think it's fun. I do like the song.
I struggle with this song simply because of the, like, change up towards the end.
Yes, where it kind of like speeds up, slows down a bit. Yeah,
and we get, you know, the tempo shift or whatever, and then we get the to the one. I don't know. I get it why it happens, and it kind of gives it a fun little outro. It makes sense, but I don't know. It's not for me at the moment. I still like the song. There's not actually generally
not a standout.
There's not one song on the album that I'm like, I didn't like this one, I'll skip it.
That I hate. Yeah. Well, even when I said to you, "Oh, Down Bad is my favourite," but then I'm like, I
still listen to it though. Yeah. I love the verse of Fresh Out the Summer, for example. I can't. They're so good, but yeah. There's got to be things that you like more or less or whatever. But
definitely.
Still, a lot of heavy lyrics, just like sung really like quickly and really like, oh yeah, it's just this. And you're like, wait, what did you just say though?
Yeah, just casually brushed over.
And then we reach the second featured song on the album, which is with Florence the Machine. And that is Florida, 3 exclamation points. And now we know why there was exclamation points.
Yes,
they needed to be exclamation points. I don't think Taylor has ever made a song quite like this. It is incredible. Like, it is so different, but so Taylor, but so different. It's crazy. Also, now we know why Carolina was on those playlists, because she's murdering some people. Not literally, but you get what I mean in the context of the song.
You mean, yes.
Yeah. It is a bit like Carolina in the sense that, you're an outsider, you're looking for an escape, you want to run away from everything, you want to get away, and where can I go? And in the case of Carolina, obviously, it takes place in, Carolina. And then in the case of Florida, we're going to Florida. A lot of amazing lyricism. I love Florence the Machine on this song. I didn't expect it to sound like this.
Yes.
Can't lie to you.
No, I'm still not sure how I feel about it. I'm not going to lie. I feel like this song for me, like I really like the chorus and stuff, but I feel like this song for me, it isn't as like lyrically rich.
Yeah, I guess so. I
don't know.
I guess so. But there's just a lot going on at the same time. Yes. But at the same time, it is basically escapism, like running away from everything. And
going away also and going to Florida.
It kind of is mixing, obviously, very real events with events that obviously are very fake. And it's just like, so you're getting the story of like crime. So basically she said that she had the inspiration from watching Dateline. And she said people have these crimes that they commit. Where do they immediately skip town and go to? They go to Florida. They try and reinvent themselves, have a new identity, blend in. I think when you go through a heartbreak, there's a part of you that thinks, I want a new name, I want a new life. I don't want anyone to know where I've been or know me at all. And then she said that where would you go to reinvent yourself and blend in? And her choice was Florida, which is kind of a crazy choice because Florida is known for a lot of things. I don't know if it's known for
not always the best things.
Yeah, like an amazing, you know where I'm going to go? I'm going to go to Florida. Like, no offense to any Floridians listening, if there are any of you guys, but it's just, it is known for like stickly, and that's what you can hear in the song as well through the production. It's like overwhelming, the heat, there's dangerous animals, there's swamps, it's like, there's a lot going on. The merging of the story of running away from heartbreak and running away from like a literal crime, and all of the bodies that have ever been on my body and in my mind, they sink into the swamp. Is that a bad thing to say in a song? Again, cheeky little lyric there. Should I have said that? Hee hee. But it's good. It's a good song. It is different, very different, I have to say.
Okay, I think for me, when I think of Florida, I just think of like Disneyland. So I was slightly kind of like, what a weird place to run away to, but whatever. I do like it. I think for me though, again, it's just not a fave, a standout, but I do really like it. I think it's fun, and it was not what I expected at all. Those kind of drums, I was like, woo, 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 and it feels very Florence the Machine while also feeling very Taylor Swift at the same time. Like, it doesn't feel like Taylor Swift stepping out into Florence Machine's world and vice versa. It feels like a really good mix.
A good mashup between them. Yeah, I agree. It's a good mix.
I think it's interesting though. I wouldn't have ever expected those two to collaborate.
No, and if they did, I wouldn't have expected this to be the result. That's what I mean. It was a bit like...
No, I'd expect more of a kind of snow on the beachy kind of vibe.
Yeah. In a way, I kind of would have expected Florence and the Machine and Taylor to give us a Snow on the Beach, and Lana Del Rey and Taylor to give us a Florida, which is fun, like in the sense of the topics that come up, and I don't know, that's funny, isn't it, how that's happened? But yeah, definitely. And that leads us to Guilty as Sin, which I love this one. It's very good.
Oh my god,
but
it's so good, isn't it?
It's so, when I realised like what we were speaking about, because at first you just listen and you're like, oh, this is cool, this is a cute one, and then you're like, wait, my bed sheets are ablaze. I screamed your name, but without ever touching your skin. Am I guilty? Oh.
I know.
And I was like, oh, okay, Taylor.
I know. This for me just screams Speak Now. Like, it screams Sparks Fly. I can see you.
Like the imagining of those moments without having
it's like
taken
filthy.
place. Yeah, secretly it is. And you're like, you don't realise that maybe if you're just like listening casually.
Exactly. It's all, but it's also like fun and kind of sparkly, like Sparks Fly is. Like, the chorus of like, what if he's written mine on my upper thigh, only in my mind. Like, it's so fun, this song. I love this song.
It is very I Can See You, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I Can See You, Sparks Fly.
Yeah, when Taylor said, but it really does remind me of I Can See You, and how she talks about, you won't believe half the things that have happened inside my head. And then this is basically what is happening inside her head. So it's just...
Inside her head, yes.
It's like, here's that line as a whole song, but also very much grown up, and the sense of feeling terrible because of it. Very complex song, very complex album for morality as a whole, and this song as in specific is very like, you're on a fine line there.
And I think also when Taylor does kind of dabble into more adult feelings, should we say, she always kind of references like religion, which I think is really interesting.
Very
where
interesting.
She kind of says like, is it actually what's holy if long-suffering propriety, and then like, I choose you and me religiously, things like that.
Yep.
And when you think of like false god and stuff like that, it's interesting how that's...
What if I rolled a stone away? It was also a religious imagery. Yeah.
Yes.
They're going to crucify me anyway. Yeah.
That kind of... Yes. So that kind of imagery is interesting, that she kind of often
it is.
kind of
It is
puts
very
the two
much
together when they kind of
could have, should have also has a lot of religious image. No, that's a very interesting theme that she does tend to tie together. That leads us to a fan favourite, I think. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me? How are you feeling about this one? There was a bit of silence there.
Yeah, no, I feel like, no, it's nothing bad, it's okay, never anything bad. I feel like I do really like this song. I just don't know if for me it's got much. I feel like it's one of those things that's kind of like very personal to Taylor, and I don't know if it's maybe a universal feeling, like, because no one's really afraid of me. You know what I mean? Like, no one's afraid of me. Like,
I get that, but I do think you can apply it. I've applied it in my life.
Really?
Yeah, no. This one and I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, but I think that one is a bit more universal. But this one, I get what you mean. It is a very niche feeling because it is telling a very niche story, and that is interesting to compare to how Taylor described the song, which she said that she wrote it alone, sitting at the piano in one of those moments when I felt bitter about just all the things we do to our artists as a society and as a culture.
I think it's that it feels very Reputation, doesn't it?
Yes. This is one of those songs that does feel like Reputation.
Yeah, the Reputation comes through. And I think what's interesting is that obviously Taylor kind of, even when she's described like her, like 13 management and her family, she's like jokingly calls it like a small family business. And obviously she's like the biggest pop star in the world. So it's almost like she still sees herself as the kind of girl that just writes songs and, is this little kind of songwriter pop star. Whereas actually she's like a titan. And it is just like, who's afraid of Little Old Me? Well, you should be, because I'm about to have a 2.6 million album week debut. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you should be scared of her. And it's like, don't underestimate me because I am the biggest thing ever. But at the same time, it's only little me. Like, I'm not doing anything crazy. Yeah. So it's interesting. I do like this song.
Yeah, it is a hard one, really. She goes on to say there's a lot about this particular concept on the Tortured Poets department. What do we do to our writers and our artists and our creatives? We put them through hell. We watch what they create, then we judge it. We love to watch artists in pain, often to the point where I think sometimes as a society we provoke that pain and we just watch what happens. And I do think I get it. Like, obviously before this album came out, we were all kind of prodding and poking and waiting for this to be like, we're going to get an album of heartbreak, and we're kind of like looking forward to it, which is a terrible thing to say, which is difficult because obviously you love the production and what has been produced, but it is kind of like making the emotion inhumane to be like forgetting that this is still a real person who has gone through all of that before. Through
these feelings.
Exactly. It's not like invented stuff.
A bit like with breakups, isn't it? And I'm maybe not the best because I love a divorce album, but whenever artists have to get divorced or breaking it up, everyone's like, I can't wait for the music. And it's like, no, that is someone's life. Like that is someone's life, and that's not an easy feeling or an easy situation for them to go through. Like, obviously, yes, it's interesting what is going to be explored in the music and, how they kind of, emote those feelings. But at the end of the day, it's still a human being that's gone through something that's just a bit shit.
Yeah. Again, we have amazing lyrics there. Especially, I love the bit that, like, isn't that what they all said? That I'll sue you if you step on my lawn.
Yes.
I'm fearsome, and I'm wretched, and I'm wrong. And I put narcotics in all of my songs. Oh, brilliant. Amazing.
Yes.
Yep. She popped off.
No, I do love that. What I also think is interesting is the constant reference to, like, hospital and, like...
Oh, yeah.
Like the kind of like asylums and stuff like that, where it's like, we took out all her teeth, and I'm like, oh my god, that's such a grotesque image, isn't it? Like,
yeah, and also the imagery of circus and like caging an animal and placing them in that, which recalls the Lover album Diaries, in which in the Red era she wrote about feeling like a caged animal, like a tiger being prodded at and poked at, and you can't escape that cage. You just go round and round in circles, and then you're expected to entertain, and you're expected to be this way or that way or the other way. Yeah, it's a difficult one. Again, this one is a bit like when we spoke before, like, am I really going to cry over someone who wanted all this? But at the same time, did you really sign up for it? I don't think you sign up as an artist or as a singer for everyone to take every single part of your life away from you and say, no, we are allowed to comment on all of it. It's not fair.
No, definitely. I think what's interesting as well about that circus thing and referencing it back to the Reddit era is that she then became like the circus leader. That was like that's like a symbol of the Reddit era now, isn't it? With that outfit from We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together performances, which I think is interesting that she discussed about it during the Red era, but was kind of
perhaps
slightly
almost
kind of leaning into that image,
or trying to convince yourself maybe I can be in control of the situation. It is like we said before, it's a fine line and a hard one to walk. Track 11, I Can Fix Him. No, really, I can. This one is just, it takes you on another ride. This one is a bit of one of the ones I struggle with, just because the production, we do love a good metaphor, and she is writing. It's funny because this album, in many ways, with this song, this is an example of it, is she's doing like a combination of folklore evermore kind of writing, but at the same time extremely diaristically. So that's why these excruciatingly detailed accounts of things are muddied and made more difficult to understand because of their poetic description of them. And then add on top like the metaphors and the layering of almost characters. Like in this song, we're on a character. That's character.
It's kind of like this, cowboy, like Western. She's like kind of like this Western woman. Like it's almost like she's like with an outlaw or something.
Exactly, and
like,
she has a particular skill set where she thinks, no, I can take this case on, and fix him up.
Yeah.
When obviously it all crashes. Here we have the fractures that we're going to bleed into now, where it all crashes to an end and be like, oh no, sorry, no, I didn't realise, I've bitten off more than I could chew. I thought this was, your good Lord doesn't have to save me. And now she's like, oh shit, I'm deep into it and it's all bad. Again, religious imagery. Interesting.
Yes. Definitely, yes. I think that my favourite part of this is the end. Especially, again, this was a bit like Daddy I Love Him First Listen was quite funny. And I think this was another part of like Taylor's humour coming in when she's like, I can fix him, no, really I can. Then she's like, whoa, maybe I can't.
Yeah.
It's like, actually, maybe I've bitten off more than I can chew.
Yeah.
So that was quite funny. I did really like that lyric. That was a good one.
Next up, we have, I guess we're still calling this Love of My Life. L-O-M-L.
No, I kind of...
Loss of My Life.
Even though I do...
So...
Yeah, I quite like that maybe it is called Loss of My Life, because I think that's why she's done it.
I guess so.
Surely if it was Love of My Life, she would have written Love of My Life.
Yeah.
You know
Loml.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we're getting into that point of the episode. Yeah. But anyway, either way, as we did predict, and as many people did predict, she was going to play around with the wording a little bit to say it.
Yes, definitely.
And this song is so sad. It hits you. You're just like, oh my god.
Oh yeah, this is like So Long London. It's like wow, and I think especially the ending.
It's the secret track 5. It is. It's like the second part.
Yeah.
Of it all. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And when she says like, "You're the loss of my life," it almost sounds like she's going to burst into tears when she says it. Like I was like, oh my god, yeah, no, this is hefty. Like again, Aaron always pulls out such emotion.
So yeah, I think she feels so comfortable and vulnerable and able to just... I'm not saying that she doesn't with Jack, because she does as well. You can tell that.
She definitely
does. But I feel
yeah.
like with Aaron, she's just able to sing these gut-wrenching songs and emote, and he just doesn't judge at all. I think he just gives me the vibe.
Such a calming person.
Exactly. You could like literally just like bare your soul to him, and he'd be like, that's okay, don't feel embarrassed about it. Like,
I totally get it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love him.
Yeah, and I think his production as well, I think his production also lends to that.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Jack, and I know there's been a lot of hate towards kind of Jack's production. I personally don't understand it. Yeah. But Jack's production naturally is more synth, a bit more pop, and slightly quirky, whereas Aaron's is naturally a bit more kind of singer-songwriter piano, which I think just naturally opens yourself up to being a bit more emotional, because the backing track itself, a piano, I think is quite a sad, melancholy sound anyway. So I think that's why maybe these songs seem to be more like soul bearing, but it doesn't mean that the Jack ones aren't, because they are. They really are as well. I think
there has to be a little bit of everything, and these are the specialities of those producers. This song takes you on a journey as well, from the beginning to the end, and it does kind of, I guess, because like you said, one of the big quotes of the poetry that we get at the end of this album, and that does kind of give you, it lays out what the album is for you. That installation poem is like, you know, from the oven to the microwave, and when finally you're out of the microwave and out of that oven, and the effects have, you kind of like, you postpone the effects of one perhaps as you were suffering for the other, and then it hits you all at once. And I think this song is what this song is, basically.
I feel like this song is kind of telling two.
I think a lot of the album does that, to be honest.
Yes,
like if we're going to get into a bit more of the nitty gritty of it, there's a lot of mixed
crossover.
Yeah. And it makes sense, because as that bit of poetry does say, it's a very similar process, just one very, very condensed and intense, whereas the other one is drawn out and slower. But in the end, both of the experiences perhaps were similar in the sense that they were terrible.
I love this song. I think this is one of those songs that is a bit of a sleeper. Initially was kind of like, whoa, that's a lot of emotion, and like, wow, okay. And over time I'm like, really going back to it, because there is just so much gorgeous lyricism, so much emotion to unpack, that I think this for me will really kind of move up the rankings in terms of my favourites. But I do really love it, even from you know only kind of a week or so in. But this is gorgeous, this song. Really, really, really,
it has
really
such good lyrics. I love the dancing phantoms on the terrace. Are they secondhand embarrassed? Oh, what a good, like seeing us. And I'm so destroyed over it, and them seeing me, and it's like, isn't it a bit embarrassing when it was like, it was all counterfeit anyway. And then it leads to the best bit of this song. It was legendary. It was momentary. It was unnecessary. It's like looking back at something and being like, oh.
And I wish I could recall how we almost had it all. Taylor is like, there's always been, lyricism has always just been like a kind of key point in every album, every song she's ever released. But I feel like with Torture Poets, it's really like,
she definitely leaned into
just on another level
sense.
Yes,
and that's why it's called that.
I think the lyricism is just on another level, and just the beauty, and I think also the way she's saying it as well almost highlights the lyricism more.
Yeah, definitely. Her enunciation of some words is very clear and very crisp, and I think it helps a lot in how it's something. Definitely.
I love it, absolutely love it. Gorgeous song.
And that leads us into I Can Do It With a Broken Heart, which it's such like a fun song, which is terrible to say. Like, is it weird to call it a fun song?
It's kind of bejeweled.
It is,
a bit
but
like,
it's bejeweled, but she's like going
more.
Through it.
Yeah, exactly.
Still having a good time. But she's got to be bejeweled. No. Like, sometimes you feel bejeweled because you want to be bejeweled, and sometimes you've got to be bejeweled because you have to put on a face and get out there and do it.
I think if you haven't watched it yet, and this is also to any listeners, is watch the lyric video for this song.
And in general, they are good. I love a good lyric
definitely.
Video.
But this one really stands out against all the others because it uses a lot of the Eras Tour footage, and I feel like it really recontextualizes stuff when you do watch it. Like, oh my god, yeah, and it shows whoever did the editing for it really chose.
It's perfect.
The perfect sections.
Yeah, they really did.
It's really, really, really good. So I feel like I loved this song anyway on first listen, but after kind of watching that lyric video, I was like, God, yeah, this song is good, as it really contextualized it. And this song is so fun. This is like the pop moment, isn't it? I feel like this has got to be the next single, surely.
I think it's going to have a little moment. I think it has to, but I don't know. It's funny because a lot of people at first listen, or at the beginning, I read a lot of people reacting kind of negatively, like, oh, does this mean that she harbors ill will to the Eras Tour? No, this is just something, it is a fact of life that sometimes we're going through. It's an emotion,
isn't it?
Exactly, we're going through deeply horrible, terrible stuff, but perhaps in our careers or other facets of our lives, our studies, away from this horrible, dreadful experience, we're having a really good moment and you're on a high, and you have to kind of like show up, and you have to still do things, and you have to still pull yourself together and be like, I can do it. I have to do it. I have to continue. And honestly, more than anything, I don't think she harbors ill will. I think that she feels proud of herself and what she's accomplished, even when she was in a very terrible time. So, but I love the song. It has, again, a lot of moments of humor in it. Again, a lot of really iconic lyrics, and I definitely think, like you said, it is the Bejeweled of this album in many ways. And it, you know, just as this album is much more somber than Midnight, this song is much more somber than Bejeweled, but it has that same feeling to it. And I think, which is something we'll speak about, if there is going to be a little moment at the Eras tour, I hope to see this song. Isn't that so meta to have a song written about a tour, then be on that tour? That's incredible.
The tour, yes. Oh, 100%. I fingers crossed as well for that. One of my favourite parts of the song is actually like the pre-chorus, the kind of like, because I'm a real tough kid. Like that's like, it's almost like building yourself up. And like, I think the production, again, I don't understand the hate, because the production, I think, is so clever on this song when it's like 1, 2, 3. It's like her in-ears. It's almost like her hyping herself up before she goes out. And then like the kind of like, I'm so depressed. It's almost like her kind of at the Eras tour, like singing these songs that are all happy and fun, but it's
with
like,
a smile on her face as she's singing it.
Exactly.
She's like, I'm so depressed.
Yeah, exactly. Like this song is like, it's like you hyping yourself up, and I just love the like 1, 2, 3, like, because that is like the in-ears being like, okay, you can always imagine her backstage like, oh, come on, I'm a real tough kid, I can do it, like I'm hitting my marks, come on, keep going. No, I love this song. I think it's really, really cool. And the ending,
try and come for my job.
Nope, you can't. Exactly. Yeah.
And then we get the whiplash of going from that little reprieve, that little breather for a second, to the smallest man who ever lived, which, again, you know, we expected one thing perhaps, which was, again, it's difficult. What can you expect just from a title? But girl, she delivered ruthlessness. She said, wait a minute, you're going to get your lashings too. This is like Dear John, but much worse.
I did not where you sent by someone took me out. I was like, oh my god,
it was such a moment.
It's just like it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It's just like, I'm like, how is this going to end? And then I love that kind of and I'll forget you, but I'll never forgive the smallest man who ever
so
lived.
Good. Yeah.
Oh, so good. And even like but could someone give a message to the smallest man who ever lived? This is good. This is like the emotion, the bitterness, the anger, all comes out in this song. So good. It really does.
It's all of those feelings that have been like pent up and said like, no, I was fooled, but you are guilty of it. You know, you're not a good person. You are terrible. And I think, I don't know, I guess maybe not everyone, but I think a lot of us have that person in their lives that did you wrong for one reason or another.
Yes.
And you get to that little bit in the bridge and you're like, were you sent by someone who wanted me bloody dead? Was this all a joke? Is it gonna be declassified in 30 years? And what was the reason of being so cruel?
It's the way she says it. It's like you can hear the bitterness and just an anger. Oh, so good.
You deserve prison, but you won't get the time. Oh my God, she went off. She really did.
I know.
This has to be one of the most ruthless songs, honestly, up there with
one of the most ruthless. One of my favourites. Yeah, love this song.
And again, we get whiplash. This moment in the track list does feel a little bit like Lover, when you're getting like, so you get better going into like false god and stuff. But we get the Alchemy, which again, if we kind of feel like the album tracklist is telling us a story, which in some ways it is, I don't know how chronological it may be, that doesn't really interest me, but the point is the feelings that you get from it does take you a bit of a roller coaster, because that's what this album is, but it does kind of lead you through this, okay, so now I can fix him, oh no I can't, now you realize that you've been duped, you've let out your anger and your feeling, and then suddenly we get this little love song, this cute little love song at the end.
Sweet. All the little football references and kind of it is very nice. It is nice. I do think, especially then, and we'll get into it obviously once we do the kind of prophecy, but then the kind of further references, it's just sweet, isn't it? I think this is just a nice little fun song. It kind of takes away from all the kind of heaviness of the rest. I do really like this song. I think it's just a nice little touch.
I do agree with you. When we get into the prophecy, I think it will be interesting to see, because it's the difficulty of being an eternal romantic, but also having to harden yourself against all of these horrible experiences and kind of like being on your knees and begging. But then at the same time, to open this song with, this happens once every few lifetimes, these chemicals hit me like a white wine, and then think, no, but you say this every time, but that makes sense because you're a romantic, and that's fine, and that's okay, and why not, do that, romanticize your life. It is a cute little song. I love it that we got it right at the end here.
Oh, definitely. And I think what's quite nice is that obviously lots of these things are feelings that Taylor has dealt with, has moved on from, so it's quite nice to get something that feels a bit more of her current headspace, and kind of see how she's feeling now and like what her emotions are towards her current situation. So I quite liked that it didn't all feel like, we were kind of rehashing old feelings. It was nice to kind of get something that was a bit more kind of up to date, or seems most up to date to where she is. But one of my favourite lyrics though is, which I was like, what on earth? He jokes that it's heroin, but this time with an E. I was like, what? I was like, God.
Which, I don't know, I do feel like this song, again, like many songs on the Tortured Poets Department, and we don't need to know all the ins and outs, and we don't need to know who exactly or what exactly inspired really every lyric.
Bothered. It's more the lyricism. And
exactly. Yeah. It does feel like a bit of a mix of different experiences perhaps coming together. And that one line, it did catch me off guard as well. But, I mean, imagine going through... Again, I can't say like who quoted this, where the quote's from, who's joking, I don't know. But imagine going through all of these heavy, terrible experiences and then being told, no, but you're my hero. Like, my heart, you know what I mean? Like, it's so sweet.
I know, it is.
Which leads us to the last song on the standard version of the album. I can't believe there's so much to go through, and we've spoken for like over an hour now, and I still feel like there's so much.
There's still more.
Yeah, and there's still so more. Yeah,
things I want to say.
But
I know. Oh yeah, the prophecy is on another level of stuff to talk about.
Oh my God, when we get to most of these volume 2 tracks are just like incredible. Like so much detail, but we will get to them. So if you do want to hear more about all this album and how we feel about it, and the lyrical parallels that we find, the things that we pick up on, subscribe and make sure you tune into that. And also let us know in the comments how you guys feel about all of these songs. Which one was your favorite as it came out from the standard album? How are you feeling about these songs? Are you more in tune with the standard, or do you prefer the anthology added songs? What are your thoughts? We won't spoil our opinions about the anthology added tracks just yet, but we will get into the closing of the standard album, which is Clara Bow. It's so niche because it's also again, it is in the theme of artists, and like you said earlier, it's hard to kind of put yourself in that position. But at the same time, I do feel like she's done a good job of painting you a vivid picture of how she must have felt being compared to these other greats, and then being like, but so you're saying I'm just as good, or I'm like this, or I'm like her, or I'm reminding you of whoever. But then you're like bumping them down a notch. So will that also just happen to me then when it reaches my turn? Yeah, no,
I really, really like this song. I think this song, because I feel like this song is quite a hard one to wrap up with a nice little bow.
I know. It's a bit difficult in the sense of a bit Dear Readery, it's tough.
Yes.
Like, how are you going to end the album on this note? It's so sad.
Yeah, but I do think it's quite a good closer. I do think for this type of album, I think this album weirdly does kind of close it off, and I think the mention of pulling it back to herself, it almost kind of you feel like the magnifying glass goes so close into all these different, very intense emotions. It's quite nice at the end to kind of pull it all out.
Yeah.
Be end with you look like Taylor Swift, you've got edge she never did. The future's bright, dazzling. I think that's quite a nice way to end it. I feel like it ends on a positive note.
I don't know, because
even
it's
if it is slightly
bit bittersweet in my opinion, honestly. I actually felt kind of sad. I was like, thank God we have another 15 so I can get over this. I don't know, because it's it's kind of putting herself down, which is obviously what the point of the song is, to say, because you're like, you look like Taylor but you're edgier than her, the future's bright for you. Isn't that I don't know,
that's
after she's bared herself.
Weirdly, Weirdly, I feel like I saw it in quite a positive note. I feel like I saw it as like, you've got edge, like you're stronger, like you'll survive, like you're so much more confident than she is. Like go for it, like do it. You
I
can
know,
do
but
it. I felt like
she's
that
talking
kind of
about
sense.
herself, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like she's talking, she's saying, I don't know. But anyway, so she says about this this song. I used to sit in record labels trying to get a record deal when I was a little kid, and they'd say, you remind us of, and then they'd name an artist, and they'd kind of say something disparaging about her. But you're so much better than this way or that way. And that's how we teach women to see themselves, as like, you could be the new replacement of this woman who's done something great before you. I picked women who have done great things in the past and have been these archetypes of greatness in the entertainment industry. Clara Bow was the first it girl. Stevie Nicks is an icon and an incredible example for anyone who wants to write songs and make music. And then of course she doesn't mention it, but then finally she picks herself because this is her album and she is, well, come on now, whoever says that Taylor isn't the biggest thing right now is basically lying. But I don't know, it's crazy.
I think what's interesting about this song is when you look at it in comparison to The Lucky One or Nothing New, and actually how there seemed like Taylor had this fear of what came next, like who was after her and being replaced, whereas I think now I feel like with Clara Bow, there's almost like a kind of acceptance that that's coming, and that actually maybe what's come after her, maybe what she's inspired, they are a bit tougher and they have a bit more edge, and like, they can maybe
if
stick
you frame
it out
it that way, I understand now what you mean. But that's the brilliant thing about art, right? We can all look at the same art and we can interpret it in many different ways, and we'll never know what the real way is, really, right? Unless Taylor says, well, this is the way. And even so, even if the author themselves comes out and says, this is this, it doesn't matter, because if you can apply it to another thing, that doesn't make it any less real for you, right? But anyway, an interesting thing about this song is that the lyrics in the lyric booklet or on the videos, like you said, again, highly recommend to go have a look. They're all in quotes, or most of it are in quotes. So all of this is supposed to be like things that people have said. Like you look like either to her or about her. And the only thing that isn't in quotes is the bridge, which is, God, what a bridge. Beauty is a beast that roars down on all fours, demanding more. Only when your girlish glow flickers to show do they let you know it's hell on earth to be heavenly.
It's almost like these are all the things that have been said to Taylor and been said,
and
by
that's how they've made her
the
feel.
Industry. Yeah, and then this is actually how she feels about this whole situation. Yeah, no, I do think this song is really, really strong. I did quite like it as an outro, and I think over time I'm growing to like it more and more. And hearing her sing her own name is such a weird thing, isn't it? Again, that was a bit of a whiplash. I feel like there was like 3 points, like the "Daddy, I love him," like I'm having his baby, and this and fix him, where it's like, oh no, I can't. That, there's a couple of things where it's like quite funny, and I feel like this is one of those where you're like, oh my god, she just said Taylor Swift. Like,
it was weird, and like we know that she introduces herself like every day at the Eras tour, and it's like, yeah, we know, but it was weird. She was like, you like Taylor Swift? I was like, oh,
that's so weird. You saying your full name and like in the third person, But no, I do like this song, and I think it's a really, really good closer, and I think it kind of nicely wraps up the album, which is just such a solid album. Like,
that wraps up the standard album. It is. It's very chaotic. It's messy. That's how it's supposed to be, and that's how it's supposed to make you feel.
I think it's exactly, and I think it's a reflection of that moment in Taylor's life, which was chaotic, which was messy, which was all over the show, which was ill-informed, and I think that's why it's kind of come out as this kind of messy, heartbroken, fun pop, like jokey. It's just every emotion kind of under the sun, and I think I just love it. I think on first listen I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just felt slightly overwhelmed, and I think now that I've been able to properly process and digest, I've really fallen in love with these songs, more than I think even I did with like Midnights initially. I think Midnights I was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure. Whereas this one, I knew I liked it. I just knew there was too much to process. And I love Midnights. I really, really love Midnights. And I hope that people don't forget about Midnights because of Torture Poets.
No,
and I hope it doesn't get
in the
overshadowed.
end, each of these albums are their own thing and their own being and their own point in time. And obviously, none of us have stopped enjoying Fearless, even though we have
definitely not.
However many albums have come
since then
after it. Yeah.
But no, I absolutely love it. What about you? What's your kind of overarching feelings?
Yeah, I guess I agree with you completely. I don't know, it's very difficult to me to process albums straight away on reaction. I'm not very good at reacting to things because I'm just like, okay, well, that was a song, okay, well, that was another song. So it always takes me a bit of time. But this album, I do think, is so overwhelming in the sense not just of quantity but of feelings that you feel with it, and it is excruciating, and it does make you feel a little, you know, tilted and a little bit, oh my god, where am I, what is this? And I think that's good art. If it can make you feel something, and if it can make you feel kind of like nauseous even at some point, you know, it's good art. It is heart-wrenching, soul-bearing, everything in between. And I think the most important thing of this whole thing, and the thing that kind of like tied it together really well for me, was that in summation poem that she has added into the lyric booklet and into the, you know, booklets of the albums, vinyl, whatever. And if you haven't read it, I'm sure everyone has by now, but if you haven't, no problems, go check it out, because honestly it is such a good way of tying the whole thing together into a bow and making you realize why she touches upon all of the themes that she does touch upon. And I don't know, it makes you, when I read that and then went back and listened again and again, I really understood the vision of this project and the bravery that it would take to release something like this. And then the anthology tracks hit, and I was like, wait a second. But those tracks
but I
really
do think it's a standalone.
Yeah, it does feel like a separate entity in so many ways, and I can't wait to get into that with you.
Me too. Oh, I think it's going to be so hard trying to keep it. It's been hard enough trying to keep all these feelings from you, because normally I send you about a 20-minute voice note of like, okay, so I love this song and I cried at this one, and then you'll react to it, and I'll like re-listen while you're listening, and I'll be like, I know. So it's like,
I'm going to have to hold it in for a little bit longer. It's weird having
to just hold
At least now we can talk about these ones.
Exactly. But I have actually enjoyed it, to be fair. I've enjoyed actually being generally not knowing, like, you know, when you said one of the songs, you're like, oh, there's a silence. You're thinking, oh, God,
because I was like,
he hates this. I'm like, no, I'm not.
Exactly. I was a bit on edge, like, what's he going to say about my favourites? Even with Down Bad, I'm kind of like, now I've got to convince you again. We never agree, do we? Like, we always have our different.
No.
Like, same with You're on Your Own, Kid. Maybe one day we'll be on the same page.
I actually can't believe that I said that. Like, what an idiot. But
no, it's funny. I find it hilarious. No, it's fine. It's fine. But anyway, we've reached the end of this portion of the album. Please do. Oh, we thank you so much for your patience, by the way, for like marinating in this album before this, like, our breakdown has come out, and like the things you want to say. Perhaps you've already read them. Perhaps you already came up with them yourself. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. Do let us know in the comments what all of your thoughts were. We had a couple of comments of like you guys saying like, oh, I can't wait to hear what you guys think. And that means a lot to us, because in the end, we're all just fans. We're all here together, and we do try and kind of like gather our thoughts and gather up as much as hopefully critically kind commentary as we can. But it really does mean a lot that you guys were excited to hear what we thought. So thank you for waiting. Bear with us for a little bit longer, and we will get into those other tracks, which I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm sure you do as well, Cameron.
Yes, there's a lot incoming. Yes, I think if, you know, this episode is anything to say about the standard album, there's so much more to say about Anthology. These songs are just on another level, so I can't wait to kind of deep dive into them as well. Until then, though, thank you very much for joining us. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Also, make sure to subscribe. You can follow us over on Instagram. Our handle is @SwiftlySpokenPodcast. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify or any other streaming service, then please rate us. It helps us to know if you're enjoying the podcast. And we will speak to you very, very soon.